Welcome to Inside Gator Nation. This is the last regular season game versus LSU. It's quite a big game. The Florida Gators have a chance to go undefeated at home this season, and this is still a big rivalry game, more so than Tennessee was. Tennessee has kind of fizzled out over the years. You kind of have to win a few of those games to keep the rivalry going back and forth. That rivalry is kind of out the window. This week, upcoming, we have LSU. I'm sure these kids remember how big of a game this is. It's got recent history. It's huge. I expect Florida to show up and play. Taking a look at the stats here, LSU averages 28 points a game, 28.75. Florida averages 42. So 28.75, that's really not a bad offense by any means. In fact, I would say that is kind of the strength of this LSU football team. They're pretty well balanced, and they can sling it around the yard too. We'll cover that in a little bit. Let's see, rushing yards per game, they average $110. Florida surprisingly averages 126.2. I did not expect, coming into this game, doing my research, I did not expect Florida to be averaging more on the ground than LSU. That is a little bit of a surprise. Rushing average per attempt, they average 3.2 to Florida's 4.1. Passing average per attempt, 7.3. Kyle Trask is way up there at 9.97. 7.3 is not bad. Some of these numbers may be a little bit misconstrued, considering Miles Brennan for LSU, who played the first 3 games of the season before going down with an injury, replaced by TJ Finley. We'll cover that in a second. Passing yards per game, they still average 306 yards through the air a game. Florida not too far ahead of them, 376. Rushing and passing TDs, they have 7 rushing to 18 passing TDs. That doesn't wow you there. Florida's got 6 rushing TDs to 40, a whopping 40 passing touchdowns. And that reminds me, Kyle Trask has the chance in this game to surpass Danny Wuerffel. He is 1 touchdown shy of 39, which Wuerffel had set in the 96 season. So expect that to definitely happen as Trask continues to climb through the leaderboards. Putting up the 2 quarterback comparison for LSU, like I said, Miles Brennan started the first 3 games. He's a junior, 6'4", 210 pounds. He could sling it all over the yard. And to be quite honest, I would be much more worried than I am this week if Miles Brennan was still at the helm for LSU. He is ridiculous. If you go back and watch his games, this kid is the real deal. He had 11 touchdowns to 3 interceptions with a 64.2 QBR. He's being replaced by a true freshman, 6'6", 242-pound TJ Finley, who has so far through 5 games thrown for 941 yards, 5 TDs to 5 picks. So not horrible. He kind of comes and goes in flashes. The kid is definitely capable. It's kind of a matter of which kid shows up this week. It is a night game for Florida at the Swamp. Not that many fans in the stands, so the crowd shouldn't be a factor, shouldn't be getting the kid too rattled. In fact, Ed Orgeron said this kid does not get rattled, and he did not look rattled against Alabama last week. They just came up way short. This is a team that's fallen apart. A couple other key guys to look for, they have a pretty good 1-2 punch at the running back position. Terrion Davis-Price, who's carried the ball 91 times for 391 yards. That's a 4.1 average and 3 touchdowns. And my personal favorite, I followed John Emery Jr. through the recruiting ranks. This kid's the real deal. I think he's kind of the more of a home run threat, even though he's got 20 less carries than Davis-Price. He's carried the ball 71 times for 371 yards. That's a much higher average, more than a yard difference at 5.2. He also has 3 TDs. So they always have fresh legs on the field at running back. Keep an eye out for that. Pretty balanced team. We can't take LSU lightly. I don't expect that will be the case. In fact, I think Florida comes out swinging this week, and look for us to try to get some style points, maybe kind of rub the score in. It is a rivalry. Mullen tends to save some things up his sleeve for games like these. Bad news for LSU. Good news for Florida is we don't have to account for former five-star tight end Eric Gilbert as he decides to opt out for the rest of the 2020 season for LSU. That's a big deal for them and just shows how maybe there's some cancerous things going on in the locker room. Not too sure behind the scenes, but it's not a good picture being painted in Baton Rouge. In fact, this kid was in the talk for, he almost signed with Georgia, came down to Georgia and LSU and I think one other team. He ended up sticking with his pledge to LSU. He was like the number 2 recruit out of the state of Georgia, and there are rumors out there right now that he is going to transfer to Georgia. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. It's kind of ridiculous because Georgia already has the top 3 kids in the state of Georgia for the 2021 recruiting cycle. If they were to add this kid, Georgia's absolutely loaded for the near future. That's not what you Gator fans want to hear. I understand that, but Georgia's still doing their thing on the recruiting trail. So for the weather here in Gainesville Saturday night, it's going to be 97% humidity, 57 degrees in the evening time around kickoff and into the late hours. Partly cloudy with a southeast 3-mile-per-hour wind. So pretty good football weather. Nothing to be concerned about. In other news, UF has a wide receiver into the transfer portal. He's a former walk-on, Jalen Jackson. He enters the transfer portal. And also another quick tidbit here. Tune in to Florida basketball Saturday at 11 a.m. as we take on our arch rival Florida State. Like I said in the last episode, I will be covering Florida basketball as the football season winds down just a little bit. So a full day Saturday, 11 o'clock basketball game, 7 o'clock kickoff on CBS for the LSU games. Now let's take a look at Rex's pick of the week.
What's the pick gonna be this week? I'm checking them out. I'm gonna set you down. Who's it gonna be? Oh yeah, twice in a row. Let's go. Totally different picture this time. You gonna pick it up? Got it. I think Baby Rex may be onto something, as officially he is 1-0 on his picks with a good chance of going 2-0 this week. Once again, I have not trained him in any way, and I keep our picks separate. But this week, I do agree with Rex once again, and I must say Florida probably wins this game 45-23. I think LSU may score some points. If you're betting on the game, I have to advise you to stay away from this game to bet on. But if you're going to pick something to bet on, probably go with the over on the over-under. The over-under is sitting at 68.5 right now, and the spread is 23.5. So I don't recommend betting on this game. I do think Florida will win. It's just the way Florida's been playing lately. It's hard to tell which team's going to show up in the first half. So I recommend staying away from any spreads. That's all for the show. We'll see you after the post game Saturday, and I plan on making a more in-depth preview for Alabama next week. We'll see you. Go Gators.
If you like today's video, please remember to hit the like button down below, share, and subscribe for all the latest Gator news all year long. from recruiting to matchup previews, post-game highlights, and much more.